Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today we have an interesting topic: good books after a breakup, great books after a breakup. What's the difference? I'm going to explain that to you. So, this was actually suggested to review books. I'm a big fan of Audible. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. And so, a lot of times when I reference a book, I've actually listened to it on Audible, which some people like and some people don't. Some people prefer hardbacks. It's up to you. However, you receive or find the information more receptively, go with it. I like the fact that Audible is something I can do while I'm driving or at the gym or going for a walk. So you kill two birds with one stone. And sometimes it eliminates more distractions where if I'm reading a book, I find myself to get distracted more easily if someone walks in the room or your phone goes off, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, that being said, if you like this video, throw me a like. If you don't like it, that's just fine. Don't like it, then have an opinion. And if you want to put something in the comment below about a good book that you read after a breakup or what you consider to be a great book after a breakup, please put it in the comments down below to help some other individuals out. And if you really like this channel or this particular live stream, go ahead and subscribe, hit the red button, and notifications will come up and hopefully let you know when we have live streams. So, to start off, let's just break down before we get into the books that I might recommend the difference between a good book after a breakup and a great book after a breakup, right? And so, good would mean something on a scale of 6 or 7 out of 10. You got some good points from it. It helped you. It might even reassure you that you're doing the right thing and give you some information that you kind of already knew, but they framed it in a really good way. There's a couple of touching anecdotes, stuff like that. Now, a great book when you break up is a book that resonates. It's almost like the book is talking to you directly, like you're going, "Oh shit, that's exactly what happened to me," or "That's exactly what I needed to hear." And you have these aha moments when you're reading the book. Now, what I recommend to you, what I recommend to you is probably most likely going to be something that resonated with me. Now, being that we're different individuals, different human beings with different past experiences and a different outlook on the world, the same book might not have the same effect on you. Now, here's the different part of this whole thing. When you're looking through material after a breakup, books included, a book that 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 8 years ago would have meant fuck all to you, or you would have thought was ridiculous, suddenly has some kind of new light to it. So the timing when you read something definitely makes a difference in how you receive it. And so one of the first books that I actually don't mention this book a whole lot on the channel, and it's not a book I've revisited since I had a breakup 11 years ago or 10 years ago, whatever it was now, maybe 11 years ago. That was really tough on me at the time, and now I'm just fine. Uh, but I was in a library and I was just looking around aimlessly, with no real plan, no book in mind. And that's the cool thing about an old school big city libraries is you just kind of walk through the library. What's up, Rob? You just kind of walk through the library and kind of feel out, what's this book about? What's that book about? Now we have reviews, we have Amazon. It's just different. And I've talked about this before as a side note. And I know with COVID right now, that's the elephant in the room. But when you break up and you're having trouble being alone, which a lot of people do, and you're feeling lonely or upset about what's going on, I like to tell people, instead of staying in your room, your house, your living room, watching TV and pigging out, consider going out, embracing the fact that you are alone, and go to places where you are around people that are calm, um, non-aggressive. And one of those places is a library or a bookstore. I don't know about bookstores now, but Bookstores when I was younger were similar to libraries. A lot of people, it just tends to be quieter, more peaceful places. Libraries, the way I was raised, you just don't talk. It's just rule number one. You enter a library, you shut up. You just don't talk. And if you're gonna talk in the library, you whisper. And when I was in college, it was a sanctuary for me because I get distracted easily, and I used to get more distracted before. And so I just like the fact that it was quiet, and everyone's looking for a little bit of knowledge or studying something or relaxing. And you, when you're in a breakup, have to be mindful of the environment you're putting yourself into because you're going to be sensitive and vulnerable. And so, people do this thing where they're like, "Oh, I went and drove to the dock where we used to, make out and kiss, and I went, to the place, and I just miss her. I miss him so much." I get it. Don't continue to do that because you're not going to heal well from that. My idea is that if you're going to embrace the breakup, you got to embrace being alone a little bit because this idea of monkey branching and rebounding, it can work. Depends on where you're at in the breakup and whatnot. But if you're going to give yourself some time to process the breakup and what went down, how it went down, and where you're going to go moving forward, you need some time alone. And as an adult individual, time alone is actually coveted. If you probably talk to someone that had two, three kids under the age of 10 years old and they got a full time job, they probably said, "Oh my goodness, I would love some alone time." And it's like I said, it's a privilege sometimes to be able to go to a library or go for a hike or, go for a walk near the sea or in nature, what have you, at a park and be alone. And there's some people that are like, I just don't like being alone. It's not a skill. It's just something you haven't valued. And so if you were together with your ex for a long, long time and you possibly live together, spend all your time together, it's an adjustment. You're breaking basically an addiction to someone. And so it will take time. And one of those places that was a hollow place for me or a hallow place for me was going to a library, a city library. And I would venture to say a lot of places have decent to good libraries. And the ethics of a library is to be quiet, to be calm. I don't think there's very many fights that break out in a library or arguments because of the environment that's created. So I was at this library. I'm looking around. I've never been into self improvement or anything near it in my 20s. It was never introduced to me. And by the way, if someone did introduce it to me, I'd probably make a joke out of it. So this book that was colorful, kind of weird. I just grabbed it. I think I'm pretty sure it was titled "How to Heal Yourself," Louise Hay. Now, Louise Hay is extremely well known in the, I believe it's "How to Heal Yourself." I'm gonna write that down. Louise. She's extremely well known in the self improvement world. She's got, many books. She ended up being a publisher for self improvement books. And so at the time, I grabbed the book by chance, not recommended, How to Heal Yourself. I ended up reading that whole book beginning to end, which was a simple book. It wasn't, there was nothing intricate about, but it resonated with me at the time. I'm like, I need to heal right now. So the interesting thing I remember, and I don't remember a lot of specifics, I read it 11 years ago, and this is probably why Corey Wayne tells everyone to read the book 10, 15 times, because it's true. You don't remember things. And I have an excellent memory, but you're not going to remember something from 11 years ago front to back. But what I do remember, the ironic thing is, here's this woman writing a book about healing yourself and treating yourself better and understanding, different things. And then she tells her story, and her story was, wait for it, she had a man leave her. It wasn't just she had some issues when she was a child. She had, like most of us, we all have a couple victim stories in us. We all have something where someone hurt us, and it's completely human. And some have more than others, and some have more extreme ones. And so she goes through and talks about, having a rough childhood and whatnot, and different things like that. And then she gets to a point where the hammer dropped on her. I believe she was a model when she was young, like in her 20s. And so she, lived a pretty good lifestyle. And I believe it was her second husband. She was madly in love with him. He was a great man, a great husband. He was, I believe he was wealthy, if I remember the story correctly. And wham, bam, damn, he left her. I don't remember if it was 10 years, 15 years, 8 years, but it crushed her. She didn't see it was coming. She was madly in love. The man was a good man to her, and he left her for a younger woman, and it absolutely crushed her. And so this propelled her into the self improvement world where she became an author and looked into things and things like that. So, by chance of picking up this book, I immediately had something to relate to at that time. Now, How to Heal Yourself right now, I don't know how much it would resonate. I haven't revisited that book in a long time, and it's extremely simply written. But at the moment and in that time, I found it really interesting. Now, there wasn't a lot of things that were useful in the book. I found like, oh, do this, do that. It was more or less like, um, there's other people in the world that have bad breakups and make it through, and there's other people that had worse childhoods and make it through. And it was just relatable at the time. And so where I'm going with this, a good book after a breakup is a book that gives you some information that you like, that you maybe agree with, that maybe gives you a couple nuggets. A great book resonates. You're like, this book is fucking talking to me. This is this is what I need to hear right now. And in that moment, Heal Yourself was good to great. It wasn't outstanding, but it was just a what was great about it is it opened me up to reading again, and it opened me up to a whole new genre of books. And I would not say that she's even in the top 10 of anything that was self improvement that I've read since. And self improvement books and these types of books, they overlap a lot of their information. So there's a certain point where you've read most of the themes on self improvement. But what I'm saying is during a breakup, if that's one of the areas you need to work on, you're not happy with yourself as an individual, then you need to dive into some of those books. So good book, and where I'm going with this today in the live stream, this might surprise you because a lot of times out of a breakup, and I do a session with someone. Well, not a lot of times. This is part of my service. I don't even say it on the website currently. I'll have to add it at some point. I give people a thoughts and notes from our session, and I'll number them. I'll say, yeah, this happened, that happened, and then I'll usually say, like, look, I think these are two or three good books that really apply to where you're at. Now, for guys, a lot of times it's The Rational Male, No More Mr. Nice Guy. If a guy's being needy, if he's been dumped and a woman's lost interest in him, this doesn't mean that those books are going to cure that, but he needs to look at how the dynamics of attraction are, and the idea that maybe he was being needy or too nice or weak minded or had a lack of a purpose. These books kind of punch that home. And for a lot of men that quote unquote get dumped and are hurt and get broken up with, this is usually the case. And the book acts as something that you can use moving forward in new relationships. It's not necessarily to get your ex back, it's to check your approach in relationships. And a lot of people, especially No More Mr. Nice Guy, a lot of people go, oh my goodness, this was written for me. Especially the guy that says sorry 18 times in a day and then says sorry 15 times the next day, and then, you know, books an appointment with me and wants me to read a letter that they've written, and they just can't stop saying sorry. So that comes up a lot. And obviously, I mentioned those a lot just because that's a reoccurring theme on people that come to me. Now, um, you need to identify your problems as an individual. And this is why it's really good to set up a session with myself or someone else and get to the bottom of not just what happened to your breakup, but where you're at in life. A lot of times I'll ask people, are you happy with your job? Are you happy with this? Are you happy with the environment you're living in? Because this all counts and this all contributes to you being more unhappy with the breakup. And where your control lies is with yourself. And so one book that I find that is probably really a few books that are really overlooked, but if you have some problems with yourself or you don't like some things about yourself, I don't like the title of this book, but I thought it was a great read. and I like this guy. This guy has a ton of stuff on YouTube. It's almost overdone because a lot of his interviews he just repeats himself. Is Dr. Joe Dispenza and Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Breaking the Habit is a great book if you somehow believe you're just this way. Well, this is a problem for a lot of people. Well, I'm just a jealous person. Well, I'm just an asshole. I mean, there's guys out there that are like, I'm an asshole. That's just how I've always been. Okay, how's that working out for you? Do you think it's possible that this is part of something that you've developed on your own based on your environment and past experiences? And Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself is a really good book. I think Dr. Joe Dispenza writes it well, and you can unpack some of the things that you're holding as an individual. And you need to be ready for this book as in the sense that you're going to take a good look at yourself rather than, oh, my ex did this to me. Oh, my ex is dating someone new. See how that's all external and out of your control? This is a big problem for a lot of people. Oh, my ex is seeing someone new. I can't believe it. Oh, my ex monkey branched or rebound. I get it. This is stuff you can't turn your head to. But at some point during the breakup, if you're going to make progress, you need some alone time, you need to do some reading, and you need to think, what do I want to improve about myself? And Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself will unpack that in a way that's probably different than you've looked at it before. So I highly recommend that book. And that's a great book if you're at a place in your life where you're just not happy with some of the qualities you possess, and you're not happy with where you're at. Another great book would be, to piggyback that book, is Atomic Habits. Um, just really well written by James Clear, and it really gets to the bottom of how important it is to have small habits. And I think if you're going to assess yourself as an individual, you got to look at your habits, where they're coming from, and why you're basically being a victim to them or enslaved by your habits. Oh, like cigarettes, for example, right? Not judging people, they're not good for you. They make you smell worse. Um, in some places, they're quite expensive. It's a bad habit, right? It's not something you need to live. Yet some people out there go, I just can't quit. No, you can, you won't quit. And if you were trying to quit cigarettes, how would you break that down in a way that um, you could do it? And so Atomic Habits, I think, is a great book because he talks about these little things you can do, and he goes into detail, detail, detail. What's up, Scotty Fitzgerald? He goes into detail, detail, and he just has a great writing style, and he uses factual events and different things. And you don't think that your habits are a big part of maybe why you broke up or why you're unhappy with yourself as an individual, but they actually are the heartbeat of it all. And like Rob just said, it's just a great read. It's just a well written book, and I think most people would find it useful or helpful. Now, if you're in the middle of a breakup and you're really hurting bad, it might not be the time for you to want to read about habits because you just want to read about heartbreak and how to get through this. And that's when I say make a live coaching session with myself and just unpack that motherfucker. I mean, get it all out. We talk for 2, 3, 4 hours sometimes with people, and sometimes you just need to throw it all up. And then you get to a point where you keep what you want, you move forward, you sort it out. But when you get to about a month, 2 months down the road, and you're assessing yourself as an individual, a great book is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And that's a great book because a lot of times, for example, one of the number one things you can do out of a breakup is go to the gym. Okay. And I don't even like saying go to the gym because you can start an exercise routine, you could do yoga, but get your body on deck. What's the best way to feel better about yourself? Feel good about your body. What's the best way to feel good about your body? Exercise. Now, as a side note to that, exercise, physical activity actually releases endorphins. There's research on this. You can research it yourself. You know this already. You feel better after you work out. The initial part is what you fight. So if you were, everyone and their brother and their sister and their mother and father knows exercise is good for you, but yet there's a lot of people that don't do it out of laziness. No, it's habitual. You get home from work, you're tired, I get it. You get on the couch, the first thing that when you put your ass in the couch is like, where's the remote? When you say, where's the remote? Then you go to Netflix. When you start Netflix, you're not going to the gym. So a book like Atomic Habits talks about how do you create the habit of doing, I don't know, 100 push-ups a day. Someone say, fucking 100 push-ups. I can't even do 100 push-ups right now. Well, you start out by doing 5 push-ups every day at the same time, right? And that's how you start a habit like that. It's a bit older book. You beat me to the punch, Rob. But yeah, the Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg is an exceptional book. Also, James Clear even mentions that he's in some ways not copying but piggybacking that book. So if you were really into the idea of creating some new habits, and really what you want to do is you want to replace bad habits. You want to identify the bad habits. Obviously, one's, you know, cigarettes, is one that's very common. I don't know of anyone that goes, well, I want to smoke cigarettes for the rest of my life. Some people say, well, I'm not going to quit. Fine. But I don't think many people view it as a good habit, right? And on a lot of fronts. So that would be one to go after. So another book, and it doesn't always resonate with everyone, okay? But it's a short read. It's to the point. Is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, and it's about a man in the prison camps in the Holocaust. But his whole point of the book is not only do you need to find meaning in everything, bad, good, happy, sad, whatever, that serves you moving forward. That doesn't mean you need to find a fluffy, sweet meaning. You need to find a meaning that you can live with and move forward. For example, if someone breaks up with you and you're bitter, you're hurt, and it's, quote unquote, not fucking fair, which life is, you got to find some silver lining or some little piece, some little nugget where you're like, you know what? I would have never got the job I got where I make 200 grand a year if I never was with that person. So, all this pain I'm going through right now, at least they introduced me to my future job. Someone might go, well, that didn't happen to me. I'm just giving you an example, right? So there's a lot, every interaction you have with someone leads to good and bad things. It's just like a yin and a yang and a hot and a cold. There's polar opposites for everything. And your ability to look at it in a way that is somewhat positive or silver lining, whatever you want to call it, is paramount in a breakup. And you have to get there at some point. You won't be there right away because you're hurt, you're upset, and you're trying to sort and process. But Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl is a really good book for that. Another book that I really like, How to Fail at Almost Everything by Scott Adams. This is a good book because he doesn't go in depth about breakups or anything like that. He's just basically telling a life story. And one thing that comes up a lot when you break up is, do you have a passion or do you have a purpose? And I think Scott Adams takes another angle on this and makes it okay for you to fail and makes it okay for you to not be the best at everything. And it's a feel good story. It's realistic. It's not this rags to riches, I'm so cool. Scott Adams, if you see him in interviews and stuff, is, I don't dare I say, a little bit of a dork. But he overcame so much. And the story is really cool. And so I would say that book, How to Fail at Almost Everything by Scott Adams, is a good one. Everything, I used to say, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson is a great self-improvement, modern self-improvement. It's a good read. Most people that read it really like it. I think it's a great book if you're at a crossroads in your life, or if you're not really into self-improvement or psychology books. This is an alternative that takes a different spin on it, that's written in a little bit more cooler fashion. And Everything is Fucked by Mark Manson. Also, yeah, he uses the F word again. I don't know if I like the title because I don't think everything is fucked. But the topics represented in that are real world issues. So a lot of these books that are mentioned are classics and have been around a long time, and sometimes they don't apply to what's going on in the 21st century right now. That's right, 21st century, right? And so some of these books are classics, but correct me if I'm wrong, in the year 2020, things have changed quite a bit since the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. And so some of these books, especially I think with young people, they just won't resonate as much. And sometimes it could just be the language that are being used. But I would say Everything is Fucked and The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck are two good books for that reason. So the other part of getting a good book or a great book is realizing what it is you're looking for in a book or what you want to improve on. For example, individuals going back to one of the most common themes is a lot of men out there break up and they're just puzzled what happened. And a lot of times it's like, oh, I stopped showing her attention, or I did this wrong, or I did that wrong. And we go through a live coaching session and we get to the nitty gritty. A lot of times they're just ignorant to the way attraction and the male female connection works. And that doesn't mean that they just got lucky. That means that they were doing the right things in the beginning and then they fell off later on. Or they've been in a relationship so long where each partner is playing specific roles that you kind of let go of intimacy and some other things, and then it became a problem for one partner and they broke up, and now someone's re-entering the dating world after 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and they're scared because all they know is their ex and all they know is the way they act. And that's when you need some relationship and dating type books, and those are the ones I usually recommend for men specifically. Women don't seem to have as much of a problem. They're already usually reading some kind of dating book. They're already doing that. A lot of guys are just like, what's the book? Oh, I don't know if I'm like, read this book. It suits you down to the boots. And then they'll email me back and go, oh my God, this suits me so much. Right. All right, let me get into the live stream and then we'll get back into this. There are so many good books out there. Where do we start? Yeah, well, I mean, let's keep in mind, everyone, know what you're looking for in a book. Specifically, if you need to work on how to attract a woman, or if you need to learn on better communication, be very specific and then find the book that narrows that down. Go to someone like myself or go to someone like Rob, who's on the live stream quite a bit, and ask him, what do you think about, is there a good book for this specific topic? Sometimes, just talking about a book just for a breakup, I need to know more about your story, because your problem isn't the breakup. Your problem might be holding attraction. Your problem might be the fact that you're horrible with finances and you have a job you hate and you project that onto your partner, and your partner had enough of it. Part of your problem could be you're extremely insecure about who you are and how you look. Is that your ex's problem? Is that a problem that is breakup related? No. And so there's a book called Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. It's an older book. Great book on understanding why you're insecure with your looks. I would suggest the first thing one needs to do is read is a book that breaks down science of attraction so people can figure out what went wrong and how to improve. It's a simple way to start, but very powerful with information one will learn and can apply to the future. Rob's correct. I will say this in my own experience, that not all breakups are related to attraction. Some breakups, honestly, there's timing, there's circumstance, and there's individuals I talk to, and I don't need to go over those points. There's plenty of guys and women where I'm like, you're not going to have a problem attracting someone new. And I'll tell you what the secret sauce is. They have a lot going for them. They exercise regularly. They have a job that they're proud and privileged of, that they make good money as a bonus, or they're comfortable. They have good relationships with their friends and family. They live in an environment that they're really happy with. Those kind of people aren't having a lot of trouble attracting someone new. They could be having trouble with what happened in the relationship, the rejection, the surprise. And so, although Rob's correct, that is a place to start for a lot of men specifically. It's not applied to all breakups. And that's why I always tell people to send me their story, because then I can assess it. That said, people have to be open, since without the concept of being open to new ideals, it might be more difficult to move forward as an improved individual. Good statement. Brand new Skinner, how you doing? Mention these books here. Scotty Fitzgerald, it's been a while. I hope you're well. Atomic Habits is a great read. It's a bit older book. Okay, we talked about this. Crystal, how you doing? Yamel, always a pleasure. Unfuck Yourself by Gary Bishop also touches on similar topics. Yeah, the audio book for that is extremely intense. I think Gary Bishop, I believe, is Scottish, and so he has a bit of an accent, and he's a strong character. So yeah, the book Make Your Bed also talks about habits. I'm not familiar with Make Your Bed, but I do know that a lot of people say that that's a great way to start good habits is to make your bed. And if you've noticed, the military teaches people to do that. And if you've also noticed, I remember I had a college roommate that used to do that. And it's not by mistake that he's a pretty successful individual and a hard worker. That's by the Marine or Army guy. I forgot his name. Attached is great. I think I have that on my list I haven't read it yet, but I do have it on Audible. Let me just check this really quick. I swore I had this. Oh, that's what it is. I'm not. Who wrote that book, Attached? Lala, if you will. Was it Tara Brock or something like that? No, maybe I don't have Attached. But thanks for that, Lala. We'll keep that in mind. What was Attached about? If you can give a little summary. Tools of Titans, I actually have not read, and I was a huge fan of Tim Ferriss. Still am. I just took a break from it, and it's a guy. Okay, that's a start. Tools of Titans, I actually, for about a year and a half, probably listened to 70 to 80% of Tim Ferriss's podcast, which he wrote the book Tools of Titans from. But I'm a huge fan of what's up, Nike. I'm a huge fan of Tim Ferriss. I'm a huge fan of his podcast, and I just never got to the book because I thought maybe it would be a little bit repetitive, being that I've listened to so many of his podcasts, and I like the audio from it. I think he's an exceptional podcast host. He asks good questions, and there's no limit to what they talk about. But that being said, thanks for reminding me, because Tim Ferriss, what he's about is being useful stuff that you can use. He's a little less emotional about things, and it's funny listening to him in the podcast. When it gets into something emotional or personal, he kind of shies away sometimes. But he is a smart, intelligent dude who is good people. But I'll keep that in mind. I completely forgot about that. There's Tools of Titans, and there's the other book that's it's eluding me right now. He has another one. Patterns of person's romantic behavior that are caused by formative relationships with primary caregivers. Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out. I like that description, Lala. Thank you, man. I'm good, bud. I'm really good. I can't complain, Nike. It's been a while. I hope you're well in San Diego. Anything new for you? Did you get that contractor? I don't want to say license, but you were going to take a test for something to be an independent contractor, I think. How did that go? I'm sure you're busy at work. But yeah, I'm doing well here. I'm happy where I'm at. I'm happy to be in a safe place and keep doing what I'm doing, because right now there's a lot of people, unfortunately, with the COVID. I'm not going to get deep into that, but it's tough. It's tough. It's not easy for everyone. So the individuals that are doing well, we need to be thankful, and we need to perhaps go out of our way to be a little generous with the people that aren't so lucky right now, because you never know when it's us, right? So I'm excellent. So anyone have? I know Nike One has a couple books that are post breakup, because I know you're a reader, and I know you like stoicism and things like that. Is there a book that you think? A lot of times like I said, you would assume that Attached would be a good book dealing with relationships. Thanks for that. But like I said, there's books for you to look at life as an individual that could touch you. I remember a book that I read in the library again. Like I said, when I used to kind of comb the library hang out there, not all the time, but if I had a free moment during my post breakup, I just want to be somewhere quiet. And there was an interesting book, and this might tie in with some of the people that like tarot card reading, because I think when you break up, you start to feel like, yeah, I want to know the future because I was uncertain because that breakup hit me out of nowhere, and I don't want that to happen again. And I never knew I'd feel this way, and it hurts. So I kind of want to know what the future holds for me. And so they do the tarot card, and I'm not saying the tarot card is not true. Crystal unfiltered tarot. I'm not saying it's untrue at all. I'm just saying that I believe, myself included, that once you have a breakup, you're more interested maybe in something like that because you want a little bit of glimpse into the future. Because you're saying to yourself, I hope it doesn't continue this way, right? I don't want to feel like this forever. What's up, Mary? How you doing, hon? So that being said, a really interesting book about the future. I've told Mary about this book. It's funny she just came on. It's called The Extraordinary Knowing, and I thought that book was really good. I've talked about it before, and it was. I'm gonna spell that wrong, by the way. Extraordinary Knowing was just a. It was just a book that at the time I was really just interested in how psychics and different things like this work, and this lady that unpacks that particular book. It's really interesting, I thought. And unfortunately, the lady passed away after the book, so she didn't know the future about that. Um, did you think it was interesting, Mary? I mean, it was one of those books I couldn't put it down when I first read it. Meditations attaches freer energy, chasing excellence, breaking down breakups, can't hurt me. Letters from a Stoic. So meditations is Marcus Aurelius. Did I say Marcus Aurelius? Aurelius. I believe it's his journal over time, which is incredible. There are some really good YouTube books, or I'm sorry, YouTube videos or audio onlys where they break down and they do like a 30 or 40-minute abbreviated notes of meditations that are quite good, that I've listened to before. But one of the books that I read that I thought was really interesting also, it was a little short read, and I don't know, like I said, it was in the library, is Mating in Captivity with Esther Pearl is good. I listened to it on audio, and I didn't like it as much on audio just because the lady's voice was a little hard to understand. She had a thick accent that was almost Eastern European combined with New York, if that makes sense. Um, but the book's contents were good and interesting coming from where she was coming from. And basically, I felt like one of the things that she punched home was, if couples allow each other to have uh, more space, it's good for them. If couples let go of the monotony, and I believe one of the things that's interesting about her situation is she Dutch? She's Dutch, huh? Um, I wouldn't know that. Just the accent during the, and this is the thing about audiobooks. I love them, but there are some times when the accent or the way someone's reading a book can just turn you off to it. So it would be nice in the future if Audible offered you more than one option of someone reading the book, because sometimes I just can't listen any further. But that being said, I thought that was a great title, by the way, Mating in Captivity. Great fucking title. It's actually a book I need to revisit. A lot of women that are in affair relationships love that book because Esther Pearl, actually, I don't want to say she condones it, but she makes it okay to have affairs. And she even says her and her husband, I believe, both had an affair and they're okay with it. So she kind of loosens up the stranglehold on the idea that people can't have an affair in a relationship and overcome it, or it doesn't work. Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday. Is that a new book by him? He's basically I really like The Perennial Seller, but I've noticed that in The Perennial Seller, he kind of maps out why he does so much stuff with stoicism. So does Tim Ferriss, because it's timeless stuff, and he's attaching his names to greats. So it's actually very marketable, but How much of it is original thought is interesting question, Rob. Um, and the perennial seller explains that in some ways, but the perennial seller is really good because he's good at selling things. But I'm guessing stillness is the key is another spin-off of Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and what these guys do. And you know what? It's basically what I call a remix. Um, and this is going to be a really good book about how things are headed in the future, Rob. I've mentioned this before, is The Inevitable by Kevin Kelly. And basically, he talks about this. There's going to be remixes on all the great works of life. And that's basically what Ryan Holiday does is he takes quotes from Marcus Aurelius and Stoicism and then just adds maybe an anecdote story or this or that, but they're not really original thoughts. They're just this is a this is someone that I follow and you should follow and has changed my life. And here's a quote by him, and here's another quote. And so he attaches things to Marcus Aurelius and these other people. And the reality is, you might want to just read Marcus Aurelius yourself. Breaking Down Breakups is the newest read. It's from The Dating Guy on YouTube, and I highly recommend that to everyone. Okay, he's very popular. Okay, that's something that, so doing and being in my position and talking to people in live coaching sessions and getting feedback from people, generally speaking, most people that like my channel or like my approach, usually they like the love chat and they like the dating guy. And they always go, the dating guy's great. He's so funny. And so, and I know that they're kind of buddies or comrades, but I'll have to check that out. I'll have to check that out. I know the guy from the love chat made a book. It looked like he used some kind of stock photo for the cover, so that was kind of that kind of makes it look like you just had it written for you. But who knows? Some other people said they read it and it was good. I forgot what it was called, but I'll definitely keep that in mind. Thanks for that Nike one. Maverick, what's up? I just like the name. I'm not going to call you Pete Mitchell. Yeah, I liked it, but it scared me because it was so on point. What, The Extraordinary Knowing? So I keep trying to get to it. One of the other books that I read that was a short book was When God Winks at You. And this guy, I don't know, I don't remember the author's name. It was When God Winks at You, and I think it's like a series. And he came up with these events in his life that were ironic moments that couldn't have been scripted. And one that really stood out, stay with me on this, and I might not get it 100% correct because I read this book a long time ago, but he wanted to be in radio, some kind of radio host or something like that. And he ended up later on being like a producer for a big TV show and a channel. So, you know, he's very successful. So this was him going back and looking at his life when God winked at him. Basically what some people would call a sign or a significant moment that they couldn't explain, or some people say synchronicities. He called it God winking at him. Kind of clever, right? The phrase. But one incident, he said, basically he was hitchhiking, which no one does anymore. But I think it was in the 50s, 60s. This is it was a long time ago. He was an older guy. And he was hitchhiking and he got picked up on the side of the road. Someone pulled over, which from what I understand from my parents' generation, people used to hitchhike and it used to be completely fine. It wasn't like it is now and people are worried that everyone has a gun, which is completely understandable also. So he gets in the car, he starts talking to the guy, and this guy was a radio host slash DJ or whatever you want to call it of one of his favorite radio shows of the time. And this guy was leaving home, hitchhiking to move somewhere that was a city. I want to say LA, but it could have been somewhere else. And in the hopes, in the dreams of becoming a radio host like this guy that fucking picked him up. Now, if that's not God winking at you, what is, right? So he immediately was just, you're so-and-so. And the guy's like, yeah, I'm so-and-so. And da-da-da. It was just all by chance, right? Or was it? And so he has these different events, these synchronicities, these moments. And he's saying that, if you don't just look for them, you're open to them. It's God's way of going, you're on the right path. And I think we all have a moment, whether you call that God's winks or, a sign or a synchronicity where you're like, you don't really share it with people. You're like, oh shit. I remember when someone said that to me and I was like, oh, that was deep. It touches you in some way. All right. So breaking down breakups. Okay. What about stillness is the key? We talked about, of course, someone is in an affair will gravitate towards what condones it. Yes. I thought it was a good as well. Yeah, stillness is the key is fairly new. Okay, that's why I haven't heard of that one before. God, Ryan Holiday pumps out a lot of books. One thing that I respect about him is he worked under Robert Greene, who's an outstanding author. He kind of got his feet wet by being a researcher for Robert Greene. In life, we gravitate what validates the things we value and do in life. Absolutely. That's why you got to open yourself to new experiences and new people. Brand new Skinner, especially if you're unhappy with your results in life. Yeah, man, been blessed. Haven't known anyone who's come in contact with anyone, so it's been a plus. Just grinding, working as much as I can. Go for you, but I'm happy that you're out there and you're working and you're getting things done. 3 Ys down. A. Skinner, so true. I totally agree with the interest in more esoteric ideas in a breakup. I really recommend "Can't Hurt Me" by Goggins. Oh, Nike One will love that. He's a big Goggins fan. Um, I haven't read that book, but I heard it's inspirational times 10. And David Goggins, he doesn't seem to be playing a role. I think he's being pretty genuine, and he's a hell of an interview. Talk about an intense dude. And I like someone that can swear a little bit because it punches home the point. Woke me up in 2 weeks. Wow. Well, the thing is when someone has an intense, real story that's theirs, that you believe, it doesn't hold way more weight than a fabricated fairy tale type story. And I think that's what Goggins did. And when you see him in interviews and you hear him talk, he doesn't seem like he's bullshitting. I don't mind reading various interpretations of similar thoughts. There's plenty of those types of books. Some are just presented in a more relatable fashion. I still read them all. I agree, Rob. I'm just saying sometimes it gets to a point where I do appreciate someone having some original thoughts, like coming up with something that, like if you go into stoicism, right? And I like stoicism, and then you make that your whole genre, and you constantly relate to Marcus Aurelius, Seneca. It's like at what point are you going to be Mac McCarthy and have your own quotes? I am within a goal of reading 200 books this year by December 31st. Good for you. Nike, he adds a great comedic undertone to the breakups. If you can't learn to laugh at yourself when times are rough, you're going to lose your mind. Good, because that's what he's known for, is being pretty funny. I want to see how far I can take my knowledge limits. Probably have some disagreements, but the love chat isn't as compelling to me anymore. His advice seems very basic after a while. He's got a good delivery. He's got a good production. Um, I should do it too. Do what? 3 Ys down. That's my gospel. On third read. See, I remember Nike. I know you like. I like him quite a bit too. I got a lot of respect for him. That's one of those books too. If you read that out of a breakup and you weren't happy with yourself as an individual, I don't think that book gives you any kind of incredible knowledge about breakups or relationships. It's more meant to be like a Rocky moment and a kick in the ass and get off the mat and quit being a fucking whiner, complainer, victim, right? And wouldn't that suit you during a breakup but not relate generally to just relationships? It would. Nike, yes. The more you read, the more you get woke. Like, what the fuck? I listened to the audiobook and bought the book after. That's powerful. That's powerful. Um, it's not easy, especially when one's absorbed the knowledge. I had nothing like that happen to me, but the major rock star, and we became random friends. What's that in regards to, Rob? I'm sorry, I had something like that happen to me. Oh, you mean like with a major rock star? Well, share it, Rob. What happened? It was a God's wink. It's like fate can only take you so far. The rest is up to you. Well, yeah, like I said, it's the compass and the map. They're not going to tell you which trail to take, right? If you're on the right trail, then maybe you get, some kind of sign or feeling. Look for the book Living with a Seal by Jesse Itzler. It's the first book written about David Goggins. Okay, we're looking it up right now. Has anybody read 3% Man from Corey Wayne? I haven't just heard about it. Well, Rob is a big fan of it, and he can confirm that he likes it. I have read it um, twice, actually, twice. I find the information useful, helpful, simple, um, and just like Rich Dad Poor Dad or one of those books that's written really simple. It's easy to put the information to use. So it is a good book. Can you tell us who your rock star friend is? Yeah. Yes, it's one of the best entry level books towards understanding the principles. There you go. Entry level is a good word. Good word. Likewise, coach, always glad to hear you're doing well. Thanks, Nike. Did you read it also, Lala? He's one of the biggest. Are you asking that question or are you saying it's good for men and women? He's in one of the biggest bands from the West Coast. Maybe you can guess it. No, that's pretty broad. The biggest band in the West Coast, I wouldn't even know who that is. Also, I recommend How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a basic book, always being recommended, but it teaches you how to speak and listen properly. Really interesting thing about that book, when I read it, having had a lot of jobs in my life and being a teacher, I read it later on. I felt like some of the information I already like some people will say this about a good book. They'll be like, "Oh shit, this is redundant because I already practiced this." Um, like learning someone's name. But if you are wanting to work on your social skills and basically how to win friends and influence people, this is a good, like, you just wrote basic. And there's some people that are just not good at this. I found for me, when I read it, I'm like, oh yeah, I already know this. Yeah, I already know this. But the writing style is very good. But yeah, that's a great book, Three Wise Down. Is everybody on here single like me? Well, you got to ask every individual. Can you tell me where you met him? Okay, started reading when I was 828 and haven't put a book down since. It's never too late to start, bro. Yes, I read it. You read 3% Man 10 to 15 times? Wow, 3% Man is a good read. You've gone through it twice, but seriously, a decent starting point for women too. Okay. So as a woman, I'm curious. Uh, as a woman, what stood out to you, Lala, in that book? What was something that you were like, I didn't really know that, or that's helpful and useful? Is there one or two, being that you read it so many times, you know it front to back? Awaken the Giant Within by Tony That's an underrated book. Full disclosure, I've talked about this before. I always thought Tony Robbins was cheese whiz, man. I mean, because when I grew up, I'm 39 years old. He was on those, 1 a.m. commercials on, KPIX or something, like some kind of weird channel. And he was like, I'll change your life, man. Like it was almost like a preacher. And he had these infomercials made of him. And so it just seemed cheesy. And he even said that in a recent interview I saw him on, that he regrets doing that because people look at him as a traveling salesman. But Awakening the Giant Within, great, great, great book. And I actually, a book review channel called 1% Better does a great book review of that. Oh, that's actually that's a YouTube channel, 1% Better. But if you go to 1% Better and you go in Awaken the Giant Within, he does a really good book review of that. That's simple, but that's a great one for you to understand some basic psychology and how your mind works. Good one, Nike one. I forgot about that book. And Tony Robbins, you don't think of him as an author; you think of him as a powerful speaker. But he's got like 5 or 6 books. He claims he wrote them all. I think with 3% is very useful as far as reframing yourself with getting back to your purpose and gaining your confidence post breakup. Okay. What's up, Jen? How you doing? Don't chase, mirror the energy and effort of the person. Don't chase, mirror the energy. So would you say that don't chase applies to women and men? Because this is a question. This is a question. Mirror the energy and effort of the person. This is a question that comes up. I've heard that don't chase. Okay, so a lot of times men are told in relationship books, don't chase, but women are telling me they're told the same thing by other women to not chase men. It's interesting. Howdy, that book is what started all this self-development all is a very underrated read by a lot of people. You're talking about Awaken the Giant? Yeah, I would agree. One of the earliest self-development books is um, I think it's called Cybernetics by Maxwell Alt. I might have spelled that wrong, but Cybernetics. That's they say that that's one of the very first ones. The book is what started all this self improvement and is a very underrated read. Okay, Nike one that was one of the first books I read. Really? Okay. Late night commercials with the guys selling encyclopedias. There used to be a guy that was like a cheap lawyer. Um, what was his name? And he always was on. He was a goofball. Um, but yeah, those late night cheap commercials. Tony Robbins was part of them. Hey Mac, my apologies. I messed up on the time zones when booking. I rescheduled. Please let me know if something earlier is available. Thanks. Dark Knight, no worries. I figured that it was an accident or a misunderstanding on time zones. Um, it happens, and so just reschedule. And most likely, I don't have something, and then in the next 2 days, I don't. So there's more than likely I don't have something earlier available. If I do, something comes up, I will let you know immediately. Otherwise, whatever you scheduled, we'll stick with that. Um, and it's all good. I understand shit happens, and I don't think someone would want to pay for a live coaching session. And that's the interesting thing. When someone pays for a live coaching session, they're anxious. They don't want to miss it. Something came up or there was a misunderstanding. So I don't think it's just someone being negligent. So I always give you the benefit of the doubt on that. Don't worry about it. I like the Anthony Robbins books, yet he doesn't always go deeper into more detailed levels of situation. Yeah, I think he was at a point where when he wrote some of this stuff, there wasn't so much competition, right? I guess you could be charming at times. LOL. Okay. We all chase until we give up. Well, the ideal thing is you chase until you decide, not necessarily give up, but you go, I've met someone else. One nonfiction book I binge read was Hatchet by Gary Paulson. Teaches you there's an end to a dark tunnel and that a sad breakup is just a moment and it passes. Isn't the Hatchet a story about a kid that fell out of an airplane or something like that? I think that was presented to me as a kid. Am I the Hatchet? I'm gonna look that up. You got me curious now. Yeah, this is. You think the Hatchet by? Wow, that's really interesting. Okay, maybe this is one of God's winks. That was a book that was presented by my third grade teacher. She read it to us. I'm gonna have to revisit that as an adult now. But you're saying a sad breakup is just a moment and it passes, but the book's not about a breakup. The book's about the guy being stranded in the forest and having to, am I correct? The feminine energy group tell women to lean back and let the man show you his interest. Corey Wayne essentially says that men should do the same. Okay. Who's right, Lala? Yep, the dating coaches are pointing men and women in opposite directions to sell more programs. Great way to keep single people spending money. Now that's funny. Don't worry about it, Dark Knight. No more said, bro. As long as you rescheduled something new, it's just a misunderstanding. It's okay. Um, yeah, it's really interesting because I think, and I could be wrong. Think means an opinion, so challenge me on this. I think that more women subconsciously would rather, and I could be wrong. Jen's going to definitely disagree. Probably would definitely rather chase the guy than have the guy chasing them. Now they might say, "Oh no, I would never want that. I'd rather have the guy." I'm saying if you were going to have a long-term relationship, do you want a man that seems to have no other options and is so low on self-esteem that he's chasing you? Do you find that romantic? Do you find that vulnerable? I don't know, but you know what? saying that it's case by case, individual by individual, and some people overcompensate or overdo it, right? So that's why I always tell people, send me your story and I'll unpack it with you, because every story has a different way of interpreting things. We know that, right? Um, if you're at a certain point in your relationship, though, you want to navigate your relationship where y- the idea of not chasing or chasing. um, you do want to get to a point where neither one of you are doing that, and you're just together, right? And you're just having a good time. There is a specific time frame for your demonstration of interest, yet there are conflicting opinions on the same dynamic. I meant fiction. Okay. Yeah, it was a kid. That's amazing that you brought that up, because, like I said, third grade, that was represented to me. In third grade, I was probably 7 or 8 years old. So that's 30 years ago. Jesus. Anything on stoicism is always great read. Learn how to manage your emotions, and everything from that point on is so much easier to deal with. Seneca's pretty damn good, right? And if you like stoicism, you can get Seneca quotes and breakdowns on videos from YouTube. They're all over the place. My future isn't predetermined by prophetics. It's determined by how I see, feel, think, and treat myself and other people. Is that a book, Leandra? Sequel? Well, welcome, Leandra. Not sure what you and the book's by prophetics. What does that mean? Mac, both are right. I thought you'd say that. Not sure what you mean. Um, you know, Interestingly enough, about the chasing, I would say that, yeah, the individual and what they're looking for in a man or woman would encourage if they are the chaser or the chasee. I think when a book is written by a male, a strong male, a alpha male, um, they're most likely gonna encourage you that the woman should be chasing you if you want to be the dominant person in the relationship, or the leader, or dare I say, the one that cares less, rules the relationship, which is, that's said over and over again, which is, I believe, to be true. And so, um, if you don't want that, if you don't want your man or husband or boyfriend to be the leader, or to wear the pants, or to, whatever, however you interpret that, there's relationships out there where guys like to be doormats, or, plenty of those out there. And everyone's like, oh my God, I feel sorry for this guy. And some people, they enjoy that element of the relationship, and they've accepted it. Um, and if that's the case, and they're happy and they're okay, who am I to say they're wrong? But, it's not my path. He had to go through surviving with odds against him. At the end of the day, whether he knew he would survive or not, he just kept going. It's almost like Call of the Wild in some. Well, Call of the Wild was something that was his choice. Hatchet was not a choice. If you think you don't know, you said that to me. Meaning that some theorize there is a specific method to steps, timing, where men and women each individually show interest. Specifics and timing can vary with people. I think it becomes chasing when we just don't know when to stop pursuing, mostly related to being interested to the other person. I guess the ideal thing is to be mutually interested, or to have mutual levels of interest. But I think most relationships are. But I guess this is what happens when someone says, "Oh my God, it was so perfect when we met for 6 months, 8 months." It's probably one of those situations where neither one is chasing too much, and you're both in a specific place where you could be um, on point with each other at all times. That said, no man should ever overchase. Good point. Good point. Here's some food for thought, coach. A lot of women that I've dated and seen that wanted to be chased, that want the challenge, have all had daddy issues. Not surprising. I think that theme of daddy issues, though, too, is like, it's one of those things. It's an umbrella topic. I'm not saying this in a negative way towards your comment, Nike, but what I'm saying is, like, people just, oh, daddy issues. I mean, well, what's the issue, right? What happened? Instead of just putting it into one basket, I think that the individual daddy issue needs to be unpacked, to understand it better. A lot of the women that I've noticed that like to be chased are usually, and I could be wrong, could be debated, are women that are highly attractive, too attractive, that regard that's part of their identity is getting attention for their looks. And these are the type of women that always wear heels, always wear a lot of makeup, always, go 110% on their looks. And it's the way they get attention. Now, saying that, women that go 110% on their looks, they're not all like this, but I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but they feed on men's energy. They feed on the idea that a guy's interested in them, and it's almost like, to them, they get a real joy out of a guy being into them, even if they're not interested in them. These are the types that maybe like with their friends are like, "Oh my God, Joey called me again." Like, and Joey's way into her and took her out to a nice restaurant. Maybe they kissed and hooked up, and Joey thinks they're having these great moments. And behind the scenes, she's like, "Oh my God, he's he's such an idiot." Da, 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 da. Oh no, I'll go out with him again, but and all the while, um, the individual is extremely shallow, and being that she's an attractive woman, she's always going to get a lot of attention until she's not. Nothing lasts forever, including looks, correct? Okay, here's some. It's funny that you say that a man that chases has no other options. The woman's coach sell it as a masculine man will pursue. They say if you have to chase, he's not masculine. Wow, Jen. Well, that's debatable. Who's telling you this? Matthew Hussey or one of these people? Um, what do you think, Jen? I think the reality is that both men and women have to be honest in a relationship, but neediness is a turnoff to both sexes. The push and pull in a relationship is best for both. That's really true, Lala. I agree with you, hon. I would say that that's accurate, and I think there's a fine line between being needy and vulnerable, and there's time there. Let's say you have the flu, or let's say someone passed away in your family. That's okay to have a moment where you ask your partner to come home early from work and be there for you. Um, Bad neediness is like, for example, I remember I witnessed this. I had roommates that were a couple, and that's a bad move when you get past your 20s, because it's just like their problems become your problems, and their fights, you just overhear them. And I remember his girlfriend came home from work, and I heard him in the kitchen because my room was near the kitchen. And she comes home from work, and she's making dinner and everything. And she had a busier schedule than him, but he had a job, and he was home at like 3:30 or something like that. That's what his job was. She came home at like 6:30, and he was just like kind of like hovering around her, and you could tell she was annoyed. Like, she was cooking dinner, she had a long day, she didn't want to play games. And he's like, "Yeah, I read this really good book um called da 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 da," and he's going on about the book, and she's cooking, she's doing other things, she's not really paying attention, but she's like, "Oh yeah, okay, maybe I'll check it out." Da da da. And he's like, "Well, if you don't want to read the book, fine. You don't have to be a c word about it." I don't even like saying the word. You don't have to. And I was like, wow, he just called her a unt. And she was like, "What'd you say?" And he's like, "Well, I'm just saying, I'm talking about the book and you don't even care about it. That's needy." The idea that you don't get the picture that just because you like the book, and, you know, currently right now you really want to talk about how great a book you just read, and that she should read the book because you like the book, and the fact that she just doesn't have any interest in the conversation at all, and somehow you get pissed off about that, that's needy. That's weak. Those are the kind of interactions where the guy later on is like, "Yeah, that was stupid of me." It's reaching. I've never had a woman chase me. I feel like it was always me that cared more in all of my relationships. Well, do you like that position? Do you think it's by accident? Jen, yeah, typically it's documented in certain relationship studies that a man will initially pursue and then pull back and slowly allow the girl to pursue more. I see this as a method, yet everything is situational, and that may have to work in all cases. Been teaching my nephew at a young age to ask himself, what is the problem and what is the emotion that he's associating to that problem. When you do that, it gives you just enough time to make an informed decision. Well, that's pretty fucking deep. This is the kind of shit people should be teaching in school, dude. Mutual interest would be ideal. You know what I would say is that you got to be true to yourself. But if you're not getting good results and you're not happy with some of your results, then you got to relook at things. That's my point to a lot of people. It's like this individual that was on yesterday, Alex D, on the live stream. I've done live coaching with him. I like him. I'm there for him. We've talked about a lot of things. He's in his early 20s, but he won't shed the snake skin that being lovey-dovey, sweet, nice, and he won't say the word needy, but in his situation, if anyone read the story, it was extremely needy. Um, and he keeps wanting to identify that women like that. And I'm like, they do in small doses, but not at the level you did. In other words, he's still blaming his girlfriend for not appreciating how lovey-dovey, sweet, and emotional he was, and how much he wanted to be with her. He's not taking a look in the mirror and going, yeah, maybe I should relook this. Finally, after a few coaching sessions, I'm like, did you read those books yet? No, I haven't read them. I'm like, look, I don't mind talking to you, and I'm here for you. But the idea that you keep wanting to explain to me that, this girlfriend did something wrong to you, I'm telling you from my professional objective opinion, you're wrong. You actually sabotage the relationship by being needy and weak and annoying, um, multiple times. And so, like, well, it's not like I want to be an asshole. It's like, I didn't tell you to be an asshole. I'm telling you to look at different perspectives, take what you want from it. But if you continue to be the same way you are now, you'll probably get the same results. And Maverick, if you're saying, oh, this is what always happens to me, it doesn't happen to you. You're a part of making that happen. It's the lack of male figure in their life. I've always felt that the man and a woman sees the man she's going to want to be with. Everything is good until it's no longer his coach. That's the truth. It's like everyone starts the story with, well, it was perfect. Well, until it wasn't. There's an expiration thing on everything in life, right? Nothing's eternal. Very true. Every situation is different and it's cliche, but what works for one couple won't work for another. I agree. I mean, and that's why you got to unpack your own story. I know I say it all the time, and get individual help. And that's kind of the danger of websites and YouTube and stuff like that. It has this wealth of information, but a lot of generalizations. And so you really need to spend the money or go to someone where you can get your individual story, interpretation, and life experience unpacked with an objective person. Whereas if you just go to YouTube or websites and just keep taking information, consuming things, you're just gonna have confirmation bias set in and take points that support whatever you believe. You need someone to check you and go, wait a minute, are you sure that that's right or correct, or maybe this? And sometimes it's reassuring, and sometimes it's a smack in the mouth that you need. Vulnerability is my favorite word. Everything is good until no longer, coach. Like I said, that's a big Brene Brown. I always want to say Brene, but it's Brene Brown. I think with our current environment where information is very accessible, and there are both lots of good and bad information, everyone goes in the dating scene like they're playing chess instead of something that just happens, you feel. I think there's a lot of people like that a lot of this stuff too, that's why I tell people to go on bad dates. It's like, you got to, it's like Nike, you like baseball. It's like, as a kid, you can watch all the instructional videos you want and do all the drills. You still got to play baseball in a game, right? And with dating, that's why you got to go out on bad dates. You got to experience different things. And it's not the movies. You're not going to meet someone that's for you and suits you right away, unless you have a really broad stream of what you're looking for. There's some people out there, you're like, oh my God, how do they meet someone so quick? Well, they're not very picky. There's some people like that are friends, right? They take a pulse and they're like, yeah, this one works. and they can be with them 5 years and adapt to them. Um, you know, you got to find your own way. But these books, my advice, or different, in my own life experience, the reason I'm able to do this is because I've had my own mentors, I've had my own bad dates, I've had my own breakups. And so from those experiences, it forced me to learn some new things and open up my eyes. But there isn't a one size fits all, as I like to say. Nike, there are some that think a toxic relationship is normal. It's such a different realization for various different people when looked at from a third party perspective. It's true. It's true. Being calculated will have its pros, but at the same time, we can just accurately what will happen in life. Well, there's certain strategic moments, and there's certain moments where you have to give someone the benefit of the doubt, or you got to give yourself a break. There's some people out there that are so nervous during dating, and they have to allow themselves to knock over a drink or do something and laugh at themselves. I listen and read what the women's coaches say, but I always remember that they're trying to sell a fantasy. It's about making money, not making matches. Okay. Um, I hope you don't feel that way about me, Jen. I know you don't. I've definitely seen conflicting theories from some women's coaches who compared to some men coaches. It's all, at the end of the day, Jen, Rob, it's all an opinion. And, as a teacher, I've told students for years, keep in mind, if you get judged or you get graded or you get points on something, it's just one person's opinion, right? It's like the great Tim Ferriss that wrote the 4 Hour Work Week. Some people, this is a New York Times best-selling fucking book 10 times over. And I always think like the title alone is intriguing, right? He went to like 28 or 30 different publishing companies and got denied. The title, the 4 Hour Work Week, which I think is a little bit misleading on the book because it doesn't really teach you how to do a 4 hour work week. But at the same time, it's a great book. It's a great fucking title because who doesn't want to work just 4 hours a week? And he said some people were like, I don't know about the title. I've definitely seen conflicting theories from some women's coaches. Okay. That snake skin needs to be shredded. The only one you want to get that done is for him to continue his methods and then fail 4 to 5 times until he's open to the change. Well, my girlfriend mostly chased me, but I think the word chase is overused. Sure. I mean, how you interpret words is up to you. The Webster's dictionary no longer applies. People have individual definitions for word, like, well, this word means this. Well, like the word love. Said this before. That's individually defined. That's a really powerful statement if you think about it. Well, this person doesn't love me. Well, what's your definition of love? That's fucking deep. A girl wants a boy fixer-upper, a project. A woman wants a man who has his shit together. That's a good basic way to look at it. Someone that's confident, has some self-esteem, they don't want a project. They want someone that matches their energy. They want someone that can help them, grow as an individual. Most of these guys have a deeply ingrained ideology of attraction that is very flawed. Hi, Mac. What's up, Frankie? Good to see you. I got into a jet ski accident, almost died last week. Jesus Christ. Well, thanks for living. Man, that would have been going out with a bang. Getting my stitches out tomorrow. When I was in the hospital, I contacted my ex, my mom, tell her about my accident. Dun, 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 dun. We were cool. I'm not sure if I broke no contact. It's been well. I mean, if you got in a fucking jet ski accident and almost died, okay, that's a exception to the rule. If you want to contact her, but my ex never reached out to me. There's the consequence. I kind of regret it reaching out to the mom, but I'm starting to feel a little better about things. Bottom line is, I don't have a problem if you did that in that moment. But you know what? This is I don't remember exactly what happened in your breakup or what went down. I think you were extremely needy at the end, and it's a possibility of a few things. She didn't believe that you were in that bad of an accident. She's still angry at you or upset, or she's just moved on. All three of those, ready for it? Clarity. Oh my God, I can't believe she did that to me. I'm not saying you're saying this, Frank, but oh my God, well, now you know where she stands. Now, like I said, when it comes to things like this, sometimes people will be like, yeah, right. They don't believe. There's so many little different parts to this, Frank. And I told you before, because you sent me a couple different emails. Let's do a live coaching session, dude. We were cool and had a rapport and things flowed. Although At a point, she began expecting things. Dun, dun. That's the interesting thing. The expected things are things you can produce, things you agree with, or things you're like, yeah, no. Nike for some normalizing unhealthy relationships, becoming a lifelong problem that leads to failure after failure. It sucks, but oh well. I can't contact her. Just have to let time do its thing. Here's what doesn't suck, Frank. You were just in a life-ending fucking jet ski accident, and you lived. Here's a question for you. And I read this in a book one time, and it's like, oh yeah, that seems like. But if you had 10 days to live, what would you do? I remember I read that, and I'm like, oh, that's not an uncommon question. Then I started to think about it. I'm like, holy shit, I'm neglecting some things I really want to do. Obviously, in 10 days you can't do much, but usually, you know what people say? I would call my immediate family. Maybe you'd call your ex or something like that. And so in that moment, you did it. She responded in the way she responded, and now you can move forward. But I'm sure there's other people during that fucking accident that came to your side that you need to appreciate that they're there, and you need to appreciate the fucking blessing that is life. Not to get too deep, but that's real. Correct me if I'm wrong. Journal, journal, journal. I can't say that enough. Take notes on your life so you can always go back and reference and see your growth. That's a great point, Nike. I don't do that as much as I used to, but during my breakup, I did it religiously, and it really helped me get out of some things. Um, After my best friend passing away, my parents having COVID, while my ex breaking up with me, two almost dying last week on my jet ski accident, shit ain't worth stressing. Thanks, Frank. Thanks for seeing the light. This is outstanding. This is why ground zero sometimes has some kind of value. And that's exactly the statement that, if there was a statement of the day and a pin up on the wall, that's Frank's right there. Thank you, Frank. Thanks for appreciating that life does go on and that you're going to be just fine and that you can move forward and get up off the mat. Yeah, it's all on Instagram. Words only hold the value that you give them. That's absolutely true. There's some people now that, well, you said this. Yes, that the value you have on a word is up to you. Words? Sticks and stones may hurt my bones, but words will never hurt me. Is there some truth to that? I mean, the interpretation of words these days, I mean, it's just ridiculous. All my boyfriends don't chase me. We just click, then hook up and become a relationship. I don't think that's true, Mary. I never ever chase, but I balance things once she passes my shit test. It's never failed. The relationship tends to last much longer and is much more passionate that way, in my experience. Go for you. I don't have a problem with that. Men can have shit tests too. I should have contacted her instead of her mom, but fuck it. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. It's true. They don't chase me. All right, we're coming up on an hour and a half here. I got 16 people, 17 on deck, 7 likes. Thanks for the likes. I appreciate it. Does anyone have any closing questions here? I got to get my lunch. Does anyone want to tell Jen what a shit test is? Rob? Really? Lala? You want to share that in an email with me, or you want to tell everyone? It's up to you. Remember, stress is a choice, and you only feel the amount of stress that you're allowing yourself to feel. Yeah, you know what? You know what's underrated, and if you like Navy SEAL stuff, Nike one. It's funny because you're in San Diego where there's a lot of SEALs, right? I've talked about this before, so it might be redundant, but they say and I'm stuttering now. I got to go get some food. They say that these Navy SEALs that pass the test that's so difficult to pass to be a Navy SEAL, that one of the big things that differentiates them is their self-talk. And what do you do when you stress out? You're self-talking yourself into a corner about the future or about the past. And so you have to redirect that voice inside of you and go, fuck that. And I think David Goggins did that quite well at some point in his life. Um, all right, I'm out. Nice, refreshing stream today. Definitely going to check those books out. Right on, Three Wise Down. I appreciate you. A shit test is when you test them to see how they'd react to something you absolutely don't want in your relationship. Yeah, they say that women do this quite a bit more than men, but men are completely capable of doing this. The other way to deal with, a covert shit test would be um, bring up a topic and see where they go with it, I guess. For example, sometimes have a female test send me a provocative photo of herself while I'm on a date with one I'm interested in just to see how she'll react. Well, that's an interesting test. I reached out after 4 months and we had light texting for a couple hours. She asked to hang out. Oh, all right, Lala. Well, that's good to hear, hon. We're going to have to talk soon. Right on. Yeah, we'll have to talk soon about this. This is good. Good. Did you go whole enchilada or did you go, what did you say? Open the door. Lala's good people. For example, sometimes have a female. Okay, so that we already talked about. Here's Rob's view of it. A shit test is a test where a woman tests a guy to see what he's made of, if he's going to stand up for himself. Yeah, that's specifically a shit test in the frame of softball. Good for you. That's what you said before. Okay, good, good. And you made that decision on your own. Like I told you before, you could go either way. Go for you. Go for you. And we had a live coaching. We talked about it. Sometimes when I give advice or we go over things, I'm not certain what's going to come of it, but I know that there are certain things that you can do that you'll have less regrets, if that makes sense. And so that's why when we talked about that, I was okay with it when we talked about it. Well, good for you, Lala. Well, I mean, this is just, let's not get too ahead of ourselves, but it's good news. I'm happy for you. I might contact my ex next month or in 2 weeks. Honestly, not sure if I'll just keep doing no contact. It's about to be through. Frank, you sent me some emails and stuff before. You just had this thing. Get a live coaching session with myself, or go to someone else. Unpack this relationship before you keep doing the same things over and over again. I'm not going to cure your situation, but let me unpack it with you. If he fails, because you've sent a couple emails. If he fails, he can somehow deplete his worth in her eyes. Mac, my man, Rob, both of you, always a pleasure. Peace, prosperity to everyone here. I'll catch you guys again soon. Right on, Nike One. Thanks, Lala. Some women do the shit test and don't even realize they're doing it. Yeah, that would be true, Rob. I don't think it's premeditated for everyone. That's a very good point. Someone doesn't go, oh, I'm going to give the shit test tonight. No, that's not how it works. For some, it's just a natural test to determine what kind of man they got. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. What's up, Double D? I can't explain it further on the phone call. Nike One's a legend. That's great that you're still in contact too, but that was a long time ago that we had a coaching session. Someone do the shit test and I don't even realize they were doing it. Yeah, that's what I mean. All right, folks, I'm gonna call it a stream. You opened my eyes. I really had no idea there was a test. I had given one. Look it up. Maybe look it up on Google too. Any change you will again do 2 live streams a day? Oh, thanks, Rob. I appreciate it. Not anytime soon. It takes a lot of energy. Never given one? You never gave one, or someone never gave one to you, Jen? I think you're just not identifying with the term. Let me think of something like a shit test would be. I'll give you an example of a shit test. God bless you too, Frank. I'm happy you're alive, bro. Do good things for yourself right now. Do good things for other people in your sphere. Set your ex to the side for now, bud. Take a break. Um, what's up, Leslie? Um, an example of a shit test. I talked about this before. There was a girl that became my girlfriend years back that was highly attractive, great catch. There was a lot of other guys that were trying to get at her. Um, and I remember right when I met her, she's like, "Did you see my son?" And I was like, she shows me this picture. And it was in the beginning stages of talking to her. We were in contact through where I was going to an extended school, like a university program, we'll call it. I'm good, Leslie. Thank you. And so when I first met her, we're talking, flirting a little bit, and she wasn't very receptive. She's like, "Look, did you see my son?" And it was a boy, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, cool, cute, like nice." Said a couple of things, didn't make a big deal out of it. And then like she's a little cold to me. Another time, I've talked about this before. I brought her some food, and I brought someone else in the same office some food also. And when I say food, it was just like fruit. It wasn't like an expensive lunch or anything. She turned her head to me. She turned her head and acted like she didn't see me and wouldn't receive the stuff. So I put the stuff down. I gave it to the other woman, and she was like, "Oh, thank you." Da, da, da. And I was like, "Oh yeah, no problem." I was just passing this fruit cart, and I grabbed some fruit. Dot dot dot. So when she did that, Jen, she turned her head on me. I know she saw me, and I was interested in her, but I wasn't chasing. Um, I didn't talk to her again. Not in a like jerk way or going out of my way to give her a dirty look. I just was like, you know what? She's not interested. It's all good. And then she came up to me another time and was like, "Oh, I just wanted to thank you for when you brought that over to me." Da da da. Da. And I was like, "Yeah, no problem." I was indifferent. We finally went out on a date, which she asked me later on. Uh, like, "Can I show you around town?" Kind of thing. Da da da. And then I'm like, "Oh, you have a son?" And she's like, "No, I don't have a son." I that was a shit test to see if I had a problem with her having a kid or if it would run me away. Now that's not a shit test everyone does, but it was like she was just doing a little false gameplay to see if that would scare me away. Secondly, the other thing was I think she brought up her boyfriend at the table and showed me like a picture of his ID or something. I was totally indifferent. I didn't say anything bad about the boyfriend. I didn't even ask any questions about him or the ex-boyfriend, excuse me. And it wilted away out of the conversation. Now that's also a subconscious shit test to see if I would talk shit about her boyfriend, if I had a problem that she had a guy before. There were so many shit tests by this one individual, and because I was about 5 years older, it was easy. I just heard about it now. I've never given one. I think back now and know what it has been. You've given tests before, Jen. It's subconsciously you don't know you're doing it. Give an example when you gave a shit test, Mac Daddy. Um, you know what? Just like now that she asked me that, I don't know when I'm doing it, but I definitely know that things come up and I'll explore things. And the answer someone gives is very telling about who they are or what they're about. I can't think of one right now, but let's make this a topic for the next live stream. That's a great one. Are you mad? That's a great one, Rob. Oh my goodness, because I've heard that one before. Uh, we'll unpack this in a whole nother live stream because it's a good topic. Actually, it's a really good topic. Um, Tomorrow I will not be on for this, so it won't be tomorrow or Friday. Friday I got a big fishing trip. Maybe I'll put some pictures on Instagram. Coach Mac McCarthy on Instagram. I'm trying to lively it up on the picture scheme here. So everyone, it's been great. It's been grand. It's been good. Oh, I don't mind. Hey, Dark Knight, if you come on my live stream, everyone else knows I'm versatile. I talk about a lot of different things, and it's unique in that way, right? I think everyone would agree. There are a lot of people here that aren't here for breakups. They just like the content of it. So don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. It's a good topic. It's interesting. All right, it's curtains.